Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to do a real simple relay circuit. So we're going to have two relays. One will be ECU, fuel injectors, that kind of thing. The other one will be for the ignition for coils. So we'll do this step by step and we'll get started. So what we'll do here real quick is we will we'll crimp on some connectors. This is a 22 gauge. I'm using that as my ignition source. So when I use 22 gauge on these relays, I like to make it a little longer and fold it back. Kind of gives me a little more area to grip on the wire. That's just the way I do it. Other people may just do it with the single wire sticking out, but anything small gauge, I like to double it up. So we're just going to crimp these on like so. Do a couple more. So this is a 20 gauge, and this I don't do that with. So if it's 20 gauge or bigger, I just use the single part of the wire instead of folding it back. So we'll get this guy crimped. Okay, on this one, we're actually going to put two wires in to one pin. So we'll take these, we'll put our seal on, we'll make sure that they're even, and then we'll put our pin on here. We'll give it just a quick crimp, and then we'll step it down to the next one, nice and firm. And then we'll crimp our seal, and there you got it, nice and clean. And then we have two 14 gauge that are going to feed our relay power in from the fuse. So again, we'll give that a nice crimp. Lean on it a little bit. Make sure we don't want these wires pulling out of these pins. So you can either pull on them after you, while it's in the jaws, just to make sure that you have a good clean crimp. Okay, we got one more here. And then we'll pin these relays up. Okay. Okay, so if we look at the back of this relay housing, we have 85, 87, 86, and pin 30. So pin 30 is our power into the relay. Pin 86 is going to be our ignition source, so power on from the ignition switch. And then 85 is going to be our trigger that will activate the relay. Put that in right, and there we go. So on this one, this is going to be our ignition relay. So we'll put this guy in. And then they have these nice little locks that'll hold everything in place. So we'll install the lock. Like that, and there you have it. So this guy we're going to plug in here, and then I'm going to pin up the other relay. So we're going to go ahead and add a zip tie here, and we'll bring these two guys together. And then I typically add another zip tie down about 1 inch, because I have to take the power wires and fold them back up toward the relay. So I, just so that I know that this power for this relay is going to this fuse, I marked these power wires. So this guy put a green dash on, and that way that wire will go up there. This one I put a yellow dash on. I know that it goes to my my coil relay. Okay, so we're going to add a couple of power wires here. These are going to go from the fuse to the starter through the harness. So we'll put them in. We're going to cut this loose so we can get everything to kind of flow correctly. And then I'm going to take a larger zip tie, and it'll actually crease these wires nicely like I want it. So we'll put that in there, and we'll crimp these down. So now we have everything as we need it. Okay, so that's that part. So here we're just taking, add another zip tie, and we'll twist this part of the harness because we're not adding anything else. So we'll take this and I'll move it this way so you can see. I'm just going to kind of make it nice and uniform down to the end, and we'll finish this off later after it gets heat shrunk and stuff. All right, so now we're going to terminate these into the fuses. So to get this done the way we want to, we're actually, these two wires are going to go to the ECU fuse, relay fuse. So we're actually going to cut pieces of heat shrink, and we're going to heat shrink these to the ends. So we'll cut that zip tie off I had here, right? And we're going to feel this to where the end is, and we'll just cut it. We're going to do the same here. We'll cut it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and heat shrink this. And we also want to make sure we have our lettering go in the right direction. So we'll put these on the correct way. There we go. We'll get these done, and then I'll show you how we're going to terminate the ends of these wires. And the reason, you don't have to heat shrink these, but in my application for my customer, this is how we do it. But if you're like a at-home deal, it's probably really not necessary to go to this extreme. Okay, so now that we have these heat shrunk, we will we'll put this on. This is the fuse holder itself. Got a grommet here, so we'll slide these in. Give us some rooms to work with. Okay, and then we'll trim these off. And then these we want to put them in the right way so that everything lines up. So we will start with that. Then we'll step it down, and we're going to step it down one more time. And then we'll get this crimped around the heat shrink. There's that one. Step it down, step it down. Crimp this. Okay, so now we're going to pull these into the connector, lock it, and then when it gets plugged in here, it'll have a nice, clean, uniform look to it. So, and we want to make sure we put the fuse in. So, I'm going to go ahead and finish this other side real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and just add our fuses. So we're putting a 20 amp in this guy. And then this one right here, we're going to add a 15. And then, so now everything looks nice and symmetrical, right? So here we'll go ahead and add some tape. Right here. And then we're going to add another piece here. Okay. And I'm adding a piece down on this, the very end of this, and it's off of the camera view. All right. So our next step is going to be to heat shrink this whip right here. So I'm going to rearrange the camera probably a little bit, or maybe that works right there. It does. So this piece, we're going to put a piece of 3/8 heat shrink, and I'm going to cut it 8.5 inches. This guy on here. All right. Cut this. We need to cut this. So now that tape's holding everything into place. We're just going to push this up here just a little bit to that first joint. But we need to make sure that we're going the right direction, and we're not. So we'll pull it off and redo it. Okay, so now let's heat shrink this. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we need a piece of 1/2 inch, which is going to be, this is SCL. We'll put this up here. We'll add a zip tie just above where we're going to end the SCL. This will shrink up and the glue will keep everything in place. Okay. So next we're going to go ahead and add some labels. So I print these out, and I like to label the relay and the fuse so that people know what's what. So this is our ECU. So this label goes here and kind of just covers what it is. This guy right here will be our ignition label for the ignition relay. And real quick and simple, we'll put that on. And then I also put the amperage of the fuses. So on this is a 15. That actually needs to be trimmed. And using needle nose makes it so you can put that label exactly where you want to do it. So any kind of labels, anything you're labeling, if you use a pair of needle nose, you can actually set it and move it around until you have it exactly centered or whatever you're trying to do. So I like to keep them centered and then down about 1/8 of an inch from the top. So now you can see I've got all this labeled. And now we're going to add a label to the harness, and then we'll put the connector on. Okay, I have this little relay panel label I made. So I'm going to shrink this up. And now I'm going to add a piece of clear over the top of it to protect it. That looks good. Okay, so just like that, we'll add this. And all we have left to do is add the connector. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and terminate these wire ends. So close that. And then we'll put an 8-pin on here, and we will be completely done with it. Thing that's nice about this crimper is I can go through and just real quickly make a change in the wire size, and it still makes it nice and quick. So I just went from a 14 to a 16 to a 22. Now we're going to go back to a 14. So that's what makes this a nice crimper, but it's also very pricey. But there are some great alternatives that we're going to go over to do this. So there's some other crimpers and stuff, and I'm going to do a tool video. That'll be just all the different tools and where to get them, how to use them, that kind of thing. And that'll probably be in a week or so. We'll get that going. Okay, so now we'll go ahead, everything's pinned out. We'll go ahead and pin this up. So I've got a few things to move around. So we'll get this all pinned up here, just like that. Put our lock in place. We'll slide this down here, put a zip tie just to make our wires, because sometimes when you do this, the wires aren't going to line up exactly. But if you just line them up and make it look decent, then when you put your heat shrink over here, it'll look nice and clean. And there you have it, a relay panel. Real simple, has its own fuses, and this section here just plugs into the engine harness. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and I will keep bringing you future videos.